Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right into a critical but honestly often overlooked intersection: search engine algorithms and regulatory risk. We're going to unpack exactly why leading organizations are totally rethinking their digital perimeter. It's all about how controlling your narrative visibility ensures that regulators, investors, and political stakeholders find accurate reputation signals, precisely when it matters most.
Think about it for a second. What actually happens when regulators search your company during a crisis? When a major policy shift hits, a massive information vacuum suddenly opens up. And the exact data those compliance departments find in that critical split-second moment, well, it's either going to validate your operational license or it's going to trigger some severe penalties. If they're met with unverified or, worse, hostile information, the blow to your enterprise value can be absolutely devastating. So, to understand this invisible engine of search perception, we're going to follow a quick roadmap. First, we'll look at the hidden regulatory threat, then mastering search perception control, third, converting that authority into trust, fourth, proactive strategy versus a reactive crisis, and finally, measuring long-term digital ROI.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the hidden regulatory threat.
Narrative visibility is, for all intents and purposes, your primary shield. It's really about controlling digital ecosystems to protect your organization and stabilize public trust. But why is this so absolutely crucial? Well, algorithms are quite literally designed to serve up the most immediate content available. If you haven't proactively engineered your digital footprint to fill that information vacuum during a crisis, search engines are just going to surface real-time media speculation and hostile narratives. It's like leaving your front door wide open.
And that leads us to this: fragmented SERPs, that search engine results pages, equal a critical loss of digital authority. Look, when an investigation begins, it almost always starts with a simple search. If your results pages are fragmented or unverified during a period of intense scrutiny, you are immediately exposed to regulatory overreach. These algorithmic systems rely on consistent verification to determine corporate truth. If you fail to anchor your position, you are essentially handing the narrative over to outsiders.
Moving on to Section 2, Mastering Search Perception Control.
The Linkonize framework relies on a really systematic sequence to populate search engines with verified compliance data, rather than just firing off disconnected press releases. It works in 3 steps. Step 1, you map out the precise semantic concepts that regulators associate with your sector's risks. Step 2, you deploy authoritative informational nodes. Think of things like dedicated compliance white papers and operational standard hubs. And step 3, you fundamentally alter search engine knowledge graphs to prevent algorithmic volatility from distorting your reality.
The ultimate goal here is engineering this underlying architecture so that it objectively forces search engines to recognize you as the primary authority. It actually alters knowledge graphs to make sure they retrieve stable, positive reputation signals. By linking up corporate leadership data, official policy responses, and third-party validation, you ensure that the automated tracking tools used by public affairs specialists pull up your verified truth every single time. It's a total game changer.
Okay, Section 3, Converting Authority into Trust.
By publishing peer-reviewed research and clear compliance metrics, this type of digital advocacy directly satisfies the informational needs of institutional gatekeepers. And the core benefits here are just massive. It neutralizes adversarial positioning simply by outranking speculative commentary. It improves stakeholder trust, drastically reduces the velocity of negative press, and ultimately, it secures long-term narrative stability.
To actually achieve this, organizations have to implement defensible narrative networks to transform their claims into solid trust. It's actually a bit like voter micro-targeting, but specifically for regulators. By mastering audience segmentation, an enterprise can deliver highly relevant, authoritative data to the exact research hubs used by civil servants and think tanks. Once you establish this network, the search engines essentially do the heavy lifting for you, naturally prioritizing your networks as the definitive answers.
Next up, Section 4, Proactive Strategy versus Reactive Crisis. When we compare the economics of these two approaches, the contrast is really stark. A proactive approach requires a predictable upfront investment, sure, but it yields an extremely low vulnerability to search risks. Reactive crisis management, on the other hand, that usually results in uncapped premium PR agency fees and leaves you highly vulnerable to real-time media volatility. The big takeaway here is that proactive architecture builds permanent digital authority, whereas reactive management just offers temporary band-aids that rarely achieve total narrative recovery. Because of this structural permanence, it actually becomes mathematically difficult for hostile content to gain visibility. Algorithms don't care about a company's panic, they care about established data history. Trying to reshape public opinion after negative narratives are already integrated into a knowledge graph, that is incredibly inefficient. Building an ongoing framework turns what is normally a defensive business expense into a strategic, long-term corporate asset.
Finally, Section 5. Measuring long-term digital ROI.
Standard marketing metrics like raw click-through rates or social media engagement completely failed to capture your regulatory reputation health. To accurately evaluate your digital footprint, you have to track specific, advanced algorithmic indicators. You need to measure the share of search voice for critical regulatory queries. You need to monitor the stability of core corporate entities within major search engine knowledge bases. And you absolutely must track the absolute displacement of adversarial domains from the first page of search results. These indicators are what actually quantify how effectively your digital footprint is mitigating legislative vulnerabilities.
But, it doesn't stop there. Continuous auditing is required to preserve that narrative dominance. Algorithmic retrieval systems are constantly updating their understanding of industry risks. So sustaining a positive ROI requires continuous semantic auditing to ensure your corporate data is outpacing evolving vocabularies. Partnering with a dedicated strategy provider ensures your informational networks adapt ahead of regulatory changes, rather than just constantly chasing them.
As you evaluate your own digital perimeter today, I want to leave you with this final thought. Is your digital architecture truly prepared for a crisis? When that information vacuum opens up, will your verified truth fill it, or will real-time media speculation define your next regulatory crisis? Protecting your digital footprint isn't just about PR. It's about your operational continuity. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it's empowered you to completely rethink your digital authority.